Sundown Trail is a story about father and son. It's a coming of age story. And in it, I wanted to put forth a portrayal of positive masculinity. Too much in our modern discourse, all we hear about is toxic masculinity. And I think that's really damaging to boys and young men. So something I want to do with my film is show a reverse of that. Not even a reverse, show the actual truth that masculinity is positive, just like femininity. Both have their advantages and their flaws. So in order to get that, the first part was writing, which is like what Jacqueline talked about, and really setting up the highs and lows. And the second part was casting. So when I was looking to cast Sundown Trail, there was a couple things I was looking for specifically. One, with the father, I wanted to have someone who was very masculine, yet I could see kindness in them. And then with the son, I needed somebody who was not a boy, but not a teen. I needed somebody right on the cusp, because it's a coming of age film, and that happens in adolescence for most of us. And I wanted to tell a story of that moment. And so I needed to find an actor who looked believable in that moment. He couldn't be too boyish, but he also couldn't be in that stage where his voice was cracking. And we did a lot of casting to find the right actor. My lovely wife, Sophia, was a casting assistant, and she helped me. She read with the actors. And one of the things that you want to do when you're reading with actors is you want to see, one, can they do the lines? Do they have experience? Are they able to perform? But also you want to see, can they respond to direction? Because when you're on set, if you need to change something, if something isn't quite the way you visualized it, you need to be able to give them a piece of direction, and you need to have them respond to it and adjust to it. So even if I loved their initial read, I would always give them a note. I would always have them change something about their performance. And it's not that what they did before was wrong, but it's that I wanted to see that they could change and that they weren't stuck in one specific mindset. And that leads into the next part of it. Like, once you've decided on your cast, rehearsing. And I know a lot of people dispense with rehearsing these days. They just go right to shooting, they rehearse on set. I am not a fan of that. I like to rehearse ahead of time for a couple reasons. The first is to hear your dialogue spoken out loud, because you could write the most brilliant, poetic, like, monologue ever, and it comes out of your actor's mouth like a bag of bricks. It just does not work. And each person is going to read lines differently, and it's important to know how those lines come out from their mouth, how they speak them. And sometimes it's not going to work. Sometimes you need to adjust your dialogue. Sometimes your dialogue is too wordy. Sometimes it's you used a loquacious word when just a simple word could have worked. So it's really important to hear your lines read out loud by your actors. It's also important to get your blocking down. When I break down a script, one of the things I do is I do floor plans where I show my cameras and my actors' movements from an overhead view. But that's not always how it happens. Sometimes when you're actually shooting, when your actors are moving, they move in different ways, and you need to be open to that and see how they move. So having a rehearsal will let you see what's natural, like when do they pick up the object, when do they walk across the room, because it might not be what you initially envisioned. And what they do, if they do it naturally, is going to bring more authenticity than what you imagined when you were sitting in front of your laptop. It's also a really great time to build trust. And building trust is one of the most important things as a director you can do with your actors, because you're asking these people to access these deep emotional moments, whether it's love or pain or loss or heartache or even irreverent humor. And you need to create a safe environment for them. And part of that is trust. So I always like to try to hang out socially with my actors, even if it's just chit-chatting before we rehearse, and ask them about their hobbies, ask them about their passions, ask them about what they had for dinner last weekend, anything to, and it sounds kind of like manipulation, but it's not. You should have a genuine interest in them, and showing a real genuine interest will help. It moves it past like a director and actor relationship, and it helps build a special bond of trust. And if you're working with children, it's important to include the parents in that too, because the kids will look to their parents they'll look to their parents and see what their parents' mood is. And if the parents are comfortable with you and the parents are comfortable with the story and the action, the kids will also be comfortable with that. So it's really important to build that bond of trust. And once you have the rehearsal, then you're getting ready for production. The next thing that I like to do is I like to do a breakdown of the script. So part of that is me going through and lining a script and making sure I have the right coverage. The other part is tracking the emotion of the script. So I want to mark down what each action block, like what the emotional mood is of that, because I don't know that I will be able to remember that on set. There's too much stuff happening. There's too many decisions to be made. So the more thinking I can offload beforehand, the more of that cognitive load I can like put on paper. Even if I don't ever refer to that note while I'm actually shooting, at least I've done the thinking already. And I know like this is, the character in this moment is scared. The character in this moment has anticipation. This is a frantic moment. This is a calm moment. This is a busting balls moment. Whatever that is, having that worked out is really important. And in part of that process too is writing down the meaning behind the dialogue. So as people, and this goes to dialogue that's authentic, as people, we don't say exactly what we mean. We talk obliquely, we speak around issues. Rarely do we speak exactly what we're thinking. And if your character is saying exactly what they're thinking, then your dialogue is probably awful. Like, I hate to say it, but it's probably not good. So think about how can you communicate that without actually saying it. So what I'll do on my scripts is I'll write down like just a handwritten parentheses about what they're really saying, because you can say the same words and have completely different meanings. You can say, I love you, or I love you, or I love you, right? They all have distinct different meanings. And if you know that as a director, if you have that internalized, what the actual moment is, then you can give the direction to your actors so that they can bring that authentic moment. There's a part in Sundown Trail where the dad is saying goodbye to his son. He doesn't know if he'll ever see his son again. But that's not what the dialogue is. The dialogue is him charging his son with, being a leader while he's gone. But I spoke with my actor, Josh, and I told him, like, this is you saying goodbye to your son. Like, internalize that. You're not saying those words, but that's what you're really saying. And giving him that knowledge helped him bring forth an authentic performance.
Thank you very much. Great advice.